Aloha and welcome to another episode of Talk Story with John Waihe'e. We have a special guest today, Senator, well, not for long, Senator Brickwood Galuteria, who is now trustee-elect for the Office of Hawaiian Affairs. And I know, Brick, this is not the first time you've been on this show, but we are so glad to have you back since you've just got promoted. I think well, first of all, just to clarify, the OHA election is a statewide race, right? So in order to win the seat, you've got to run statewide, which is a little different than running from a district, I would think.
It's quite different.
Yeah. So first of all, tell us, what happened, and how was it, and all of this stuff.
Well, first of all, thank you, Governor Waihe'e, for inviting me to this platform. You've had it for several years now. And,
yeah, longer than I can actually remember the beginning.
And actually, ThinkTech Hawaii. If I was watching the Chirons at the beginning. 22 years, that would put me back in the radio days at the Pioneer Plaza. And if I remember correctly, ThinkTech began at the Pioneer Plaza.
Yes.
Yeah, and we were over there with Hawaiian 105 and FM 100. That's where I got my start in broadcasting, in that building.
So that's a journey. Let's talk about. So let's talk about your journey. You're in broadcasting. You're in entertainment. I know you won the Hoku award as an entertainer.
Yeah.
And tell us about the transition from all of that to become the state senator, to become and now now an OHA trustee.
I'm recalling a few weeks ago when we were attending a function to say farewell to Governor Ige, and it was at the pagoda. And when I went up to you, you told me, "Oh, I'm the MC today." And I was governor, and now I'm the MC, and you were MC, and then you became state senator.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that was classic. It was a classic one. And you said, well, this is what I'm going to tell Governor Ige, this is what he's got to look forward to. That was so fun to hear. But as I recall it, MC, musician, radio, quote unquote personality, television personality, doing some movie work. And then, I wanted to serve in public service. But I always tell people that all of that, as I explained to you that day, lateral moves.
Well, but you were 10 years in the state senate.
I was 10 years in the state senate, and I'm so proud of the work that we did, and I'm so honored to share that time with some incredibly dedicated and quite I think intellectually top shelf men and women who serve. And I take my hat off to anybody who wants to be in public service, no matter what level it is, whether it's in a dog catcher, all the way up to through the municipalities, the state, the feds, wherever you want to serve. Please step forward, because public service obviously is not for everybody, but takes a commitment. So when I look at this entire landscape of public service, I take my hat off to everybody. And this last round is really interesting for me. And we can get into the past in a moment, and it's always fun to relive, that wonderful history.
Right.
But, more recently, when I was approached by a former governor to consider the Office of Hawaiian Affairs, I told myself, why would I want to get back into that splash zone, right? But then it occurred to me that there was opportunity. I could bring years of experience in the public sector, And also there's a bit of showbiz in there too. And, obviously it's all about relationships. And I've managed to maintain relationships with all of those people in the legislature, and now the brand new administration coming in. And so I think we have a lot to offer the Office of Hawaiian Affairs going forward. But I will say that I certainly appreciated all of the candidates in the at-large race, because I didn't disagree with any one of them. They have fantastic ideas, early education, land management, advocacy. And I think that one thing that was missing from the table was a clear understanding of governance, which is what I can,
right.
So.
Well, you were chair at one point in time of the Hawaiian Affairs Committee, and subsequently as majority leader. So you had a lot of input into the OHA affairs, in a sense, at least input that related to the legislature.
Well, I certainly didn't have access to the budget, and the budget process, how that affected the state budget, and of course, the complexities of policy with regard to Native Hawaiian issues. And so that's why, with the Office of Hawaiian Affairs being the sole Native Hawaiian apparatus within the state government, it's got to, I think, play on a large scale, if you will. And I go back to the days where you were in the 78 Constitutional Convention, when OHA was actually created. And I do know that there was a overwhelming opportunity here. We were going through the Kanaka Renaissance period, if you will, with
right.
Hokulea and Kaho'olawe and other related matters when it came to Kanaka perspective. And so this was a perfect time to create an agency such as the Office of Hawaiian Affairs. Now, whether it comports with the original mission that you folks had set it out for, I'm not quite sure. That's why I'm looking forward to going back in time a little bit, talking story to some of the people who actually put the entity together, some of the convention attendees, and some names. Okay, John Waihe'e as an example, Frenchie De Soto,
right.
You talk about Manawahine, and others like Les Ihara. I had a chance to talk to Les.
And also, I spent the weekend with Clayton He. Remember Senator He? He was chairman of OHA at one time.
He was chairman of OHA, and OHA's gone through some interesting evolutions, if you will. And from that very beginning, you look at a litany of incredible individuals who served on the boards of OHA throughout the years. Boyd Mossman guy. You got, gee whiz. Today who was I talking to? My classmate Leanne Stender, Oz Stender's daughter.
Right. Oz was on the board for quite a few years.
Oz was on the board for quite a few years, and Leanne served as his aide for many, many years. And being a classmate, this is not about trying to reinvent the wheel. This is when you go inside there. My intention, and it always is my intention when moving into a new landscape, is to you got 2 ears and 1 mouth. Listen twice as much as you speak. For starters. So when you open your mouth, it means something. So I asked Leanne, would you consider being a part of my staff? Because I have so much respect for your father, number one. Number two is all that institutional knowledge, and I, in one fell swoop, I can bring that to the table. So we just landed the deal today. I asked her, and I trust her because she's class of '73. Kamehameha, proud to be 73.
Well, let me tell you what. So now that you're picking up and getting your feet wet, as we say. You jumping into a little bit of the water there. What are some of the things you think ought to be? What are some of your goals for OHA?
As I was mentioning earlier, the areas of priority for the Office of Hawaiian Affairs, whether it be advocacy, land management, whether it be community, there's no one priority in that sense that I would bring to the table. The one thing that I would want to see OHA bring forward is political effectiveness.
Mm.
I like to say it, and it might not be the right term, but political muscularity is really important when it comes to policy. And policy is a very complex visionary process, but just to get items into policy, there is a heft or a rigor politically that I think OHA could, I think, kind of plus up on. I would often see some of the representatives that would come in front of us at the state senate almost in a deferential position.
Right,
I kind of didn't like that. I mean, there is a value proposition for being Hawaiian in Hawaii, for heaven's sakes. This is the homeland.
Right.
So, however OHA was conceived at the very beginning, what it is today, I think, will require a little bit more political effectiveness when it comes to moving agendas in the state capitol, which is where it basically has to reside as well, besides in the various priorities. So, you're talking about what would I like to see? I see more political muscularity from the Office of Hawaiian Affairs, and there's a way to do it. And if you don't mind, in this explanation of how do you do it, there was an initiative most recently called Kana'i Olovalu. Okay,
I tell you what, we're going to take a short break.
Okay,
but we're going to come back and talk about that. Talk about the types of things examples that you feel where OHA could show some of their muscularity.
If you enjoy watching ThinkTech, please consider making a tax-deductible gift to keep us going.
Just click on the donate button on thinktechhawaii.com.
Yes, click on the donate button on thinktechhawaii.com.
ThinkTech, streaming great content every day on thinktechhawaii.com, YouTube and Vimeo.
Available on demand on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn and other social media, and regularly broadcast on Olelo.
ThinkTech. Video with vision, always learning. Thanks so much for your interest and support. Aloha.
And thanks so much for being such a good friend of ThinkTech and a member of our ThinkTech family.
Welcome back to Talk Story with John Waihe'e and our guest, former Senator Brickwood Galuteria, OHA Trustee-elect Brickwood Galuteria. And I just found that those occupations somewhat, it's very interesting. It's very interesting. See, because for me, I don't really consider them a lateral movement. I think you got promoted, but that might be my bias, But anyway, you were talking about the fact that sometimes when you're in the legislature and had OHA come in and present their case, they seem to be differential, and you thought that maybe one thing that could be improved would be something you referred to as political muscularity. And you were about to give an example.
Well, I can give you an example by stating what is obvious to me is some of the other ethnic groups. Okay, they take the Okinawans as an example,
right?
Filipinos as an example. Back in the day when when in the 50s, the the Asian community, the Japanese, I mean, they all were very disciplined about their messaging, and they may have disagreed behind closed doors, but certainly to the general public, they spoke as one voice.
Right.
I think that's something that we lack as a community. The Kanaka community lacks discipline. So,
Well, the place to start that though would be on the OHA trustee board itself, right? I mean, wouldn't you say if you're going to have the community come together, the board needs to work things out as well. I would think.
Oh well, yeah, absolutely. And some of the skills that I learned as majority leader will help in some of that. I'm not saying I'm going to be successful, and certainly, everybody does their own thing, and they need to serve their constituencies. But you got to know it's all about relationships, in my opinion. It comes down to relationships and how I relate to the other board members, and I really look forward to working with them. I look forward to working with John Waihe'e the fourth as well.
Me too on occasion, but what happens, children don't necessarily listen to their parents,
The idea that an example is, say, labor unions, as an example. Okay. They walk around the state capitol, as they should, with an agenda. And they back that agenda up with certain things. One of the things is support. Now, support for existing legislators, existing public servants, if you will. Kana'i Oluwalu, the native Hawaiian rule, in my opinion, was a great start in the development of political muscularity. You had 125,000 names on a roll. Okay, now you can never guarantee, even when like a union endorses somebody, and they're not guaranteeing that all of their members are going to vote in step, but the vast majority does, obviously. If you're walking around the state capitol with 125,000 of anything, you're gonna get the attention of the people you need to get attention of. Now that would have been, I think, the beginning of a disciplined, unified Native Hawaiian vote.
What you're talking about, though, Brick, was in a sense what used to exist when there was the OHA voting rule. I mean, I remember politicians, at least anybody who wanted to run statewide, would go and buy that roll just so that they could send them information saying how supportive they were of Hawaiian affairs. And I think what you're describing seems to resemble the same kind of situation.
It's organizing the vote. Obviously that would be the candidate reaching out to the electorate. You flip that on its head, and you have a role that is going to the legislator, saying, "Governor, I have 100,000 people who want to support you." Or
who support an issue, who support
this issue. Now, help us move it in the right direction, because right. I mean, that's politics 101, and I that's one thing that I see missing in the OHA universe. It's the ability to see it through that lens. So that's a natural lens for me. And so I'm obviously going to bring that to the table when I start to serve over there. So,
well, one thing you can say though, right offhand, is that no matter no matter what, to get elected OHA trustee, you had to have at least 100,000 votes.
Yeah,
or pretty close to it.
Well, we were very
from across the state, and so that's something that no one else enjoys except or can talk about, except the governor and lieutenant governor and those offices. But
Yeah,
okay, let's talk about that. In terms of when you were in the state senate, and I appreciated your service there, but the most you could have got elected by was what, 15,000 votes or something.
yeah. I think on the high end, everybody's pretty much looking for several thousand votes because it's all district related, and so obviously you just got to get one more than the other guy, and it runs in the area of 5,000 to 7,000 votes, and you're looking at different sizes of districts. So now you're looking at a statewide race, which
Right.
and so you employ different techniques in a statewide race.
But it's still muscularity. I mean, it must be worth something to walk into a room full of people who have been elected by 10,000 votes and say, by the way, I got 100,000 plus.
That was classic. It was classic. There was that moment where it's a nonpartisan race. It's a nonpartisan race, and which is okay. Democrats, Republicans, Greens, anybody can vote, in this race, and should vote in the race. So for me, being a Democrat and running the Democratic Party, I understand that. So I was asked by the governor's office to show up at the unity breakfast the day after the primary. And at that time, I think our number was about 92,000. We got 92,000 statewide. And frankly, Governor, I was so, I was walking for office. I wasn't running for office. So I didn't put up one sign throughout the entire state. And then there's nothing like walking into a unity breakfast where the day before everybody's punching everybody else out. And then at the unity breakfast, everybody's hugging each other, and then you come walking inside there, and everybody's looking for 5,000 votes, and you end up with 92,000. So that was a redemption in a way, but
that's a moment that you felt as a trustee that maybe all the trustees of the field, that they represent a lot of people that voted for them, that participated in the election, whatever else some other elected official may think.
I gotta say that I so respect the people who came up to me who are not Hawaiian and said, I don't feel I should be voting in this election, in the OHA election. I said, well, a lot of people, we've gone through this, and you have a right to vote. Whether you do or not, you do have a right. And what's good for the Hawaiian is good for all of Hawaii, and you're part of Hawaii. You're all of Hawaii.
Right.
You're part of Hawaii. So that kind of gave them a little bit of good sense to, okay, I can vote in this election. We came out with about 139,000 votes at the end of the day. 130, 140, something to that effect. We're very pleased. Thank you.
And one of the major voting groups out there are actually the kupuna, the senior citizens. And I know that you, as a senator and later, you have a real burden for making sure that seniors are involved in the process. So tell us a little bit about that part of your life.
Well, Kupuna Power is an initiative that we began while I was a state senator. And it began because one of my aunties, she was scammed. So we learned about resource, and so you fast forward that in the 2020 election, the Office of Elections called me because they knew Kupuna Power, which had become a television show and a great initiative, was a trusted voice. Now, trusted voice status in anything is hard to come by, but they felt we were a trusted voice. Okay, so we proceeded to partner with the Office of Elections. And I found out that the vast majority of voters are Kupuna. 50 to 64 in that demographic, the electorate is 28%. 65 plus, 65 and hala out of here. 32%. So the Kupuna vote, if you look at Kupuna 50 plus, and a lot of guys, they say 50, I'm not Kupuna yet. but AARP recognizes you, so take advantage of the 10% off. Gee whiz. And so 50 plus is 60% of the electorate. That's how much heft kupuna have. But they were worried about vote by mail. So a lot of them contacted Office of Elections. That's why Office of Elections contacted us. Subsequently, we did an incredibly successful, we were quite successful, and it was one of the largest turnouts in the 2020 election, especially in the kupuna category. Yeah.
That's fantastic. And what do you see OHA? I mean, is this a demographic that OHA may want to pay attention to?
Oh, no doubt. They have to. And, you know, it's respectful too, because we all look up to our kupuna. You know, I like to say.
Yeah, that's part of our culture, or the Hawaiian culture.
Yeah, and you know, I look at it as like ku, to stand, puna is the source or the spring water. So you go to the source, okay, and but I will tell you that the conversations that we used to have we had a resource center down at the Windward Mall, Kupuna Power Resource. And some of the young people who came down there to help with technologies and stuff, I tell them, listen, what would normally be a 5-minute conversation with you is going to be a half hour with a kupuna, okay? So just listen and learn. And
I know exactly what you're talking about, because I'm having some people come over here and play with my computers. And I mean, for me to follow what they're saying, it won't, it's not quick, short answers like they're going to give.
Now that the election's power, we're going to go back to Kupuna Power, and I'll be spending a lot of time there as well. And one of the themes, or one of the initiatives within the Kupuna Power universe is what we're going to be calling e-Kupuna. So e-Kupuna being like e-commerce, whatever technology. So what we're going to do is partner with certain people throughout the community to, I think, scale up the Kupuna knowledge in technologies. I mean, I for one go to my 16-year-old granddaughter, how you fix this telephone? Can you help me with this telephone? And I can hear her rolling her eyes over the phone, right? Oh, Papa. But that's why we all got to scale up. We all got to learn. E-Kupuna, that's the next Kupuna Power initiative.
Well, thank you. Thank you. We're just about out of time. If you got any last advice for us, I would sure appreciate hearing it.
Well, I just, I certainly appreciate you allowing me to come and talk story. And the next chapter, we just got to pick up the guitar again and tune it up and start to strum, and we'll see. We'll see what happens. We're gonna investiture is coming up soon, and the swearing in before the swearing at. So we'll see how it goes.
Great.
Yeah, but I appreciate it. Thank you so much for the time, Governor. I really do.
Thank you, Trustee. I really appreciate your agreeing to join us this afternoon.
Sure.
Aloha, everyone, and we'll be back in 2 weeks.
Thank you so much for watching ThinkTech Hawaii. If you like what we do, please like us and click the subscribe button on YouTube and the follow button on Vimeo. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, and donate to us at thinktechhawaii.com. Mahalo.